Every year, of course, I am lobbied by people who want the government, therefore, to take up an even greater role in their children's life, be it daycare, be it preschool, be it after-school programs, whatever. They clearly want the children raised by the government. So I hope the press corps picks up on this, and I hope Republican and Democrat leadership put together some sort of plan for January in which we work our way back to where America was in the 1960s.
That is Glenn Grothman being uncharacteristically honest about his goals to bring America back to where it was at in the 1960s. Look, if you ask him a follow-up, he'll say, in terms of the government raising our kids, but keep it real. There was a lot about the 1960s and earlier periods that I'm sure he would love to return to. But there he is straw manning the American people's desire for the government to get off their back when it comes to what they do in the bedroom and their control over their body, but to provide a little bit of support and assistance in these difficult times in terms of the economy. And he characterizes that as everybody just wanting the government to raise their kids. Bear in mind, he's looking forward to January when Donald Trump theoretically could be sworn in and Project 2025 would be ruling our country, where they are going to be mandating patriotic education. They're going to be teaching mis and disinformation to our kids, forcing them to love a conservative concept of what America is, while pretending that there's only two gender identities, pretending that there's some sort of moral component to your sexual orientation. Oh, they're gonna be super involved in your kids' lives, just not in any way that would actually help them. Controlling them, making their lives a living hell. They're gonna be doing that every way that they possibly can if they don't conform in literally every way the right would like them to. But when it comes to actually being able to afford a house or whatever, no, you're on your own when it comes to that. So that's Glenn Grothman. Mondale, what do you make of it?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And it's absolutely disgusting that, like you're on the floor giving this speech and you begging that the press corps pick up on it. We want to make America great again. As I tell people all the time, when was America great before today? I mean, like the greatest America's ever been, well, before the Supreme Court made all these rulings lately. But I mean, this is the time when most Americans have been protected by our Constitution, by our laws. So why are we talking about going back to a time when this country was segregated? When it was illegal for people like me to try to vote, even though it was supposedly on the books already since the 15th Amendment, people were still being hung. The 60s is when Kennedy was killed. The 60s is when both of the Kennedys were killed. The 60s when Malcolm X was murdered. The 60s when Martin Luther King was murdered. All of those people were murdered when they were fighting for freedom or president. What was great about the 60s? What are you winking to? What's the nod in the statement? Nothing was great about segregation and schools not being funded and little girls being spat on because they were trying to go to school and integrate schools. Stop playing with this idea that the 60s were great. Say what you're saying out loud.
Yeah, you're 100% right about all the cultural and racial stuff. I'll also say, the top marginal tax rate was a hell of a lot higher back in the 60s. Does he want to go back to that? I have a feeling he does not. So yeah, no, it's this mythologizing of this perfect time before all of these cultural things that make us so uncomfortable. You all remember the 1960s when gay people didn't exist and being trans hadn't been invented yet or whatever. And people who weren't lily white knew their place. That's what he's saying effectively. It was a time when we could be more openly have the rest of society and the economy in an absolute headlock. That's what he's wanting right there. Limited government. Here's a photo of him getting the Defender of Limited Government Award by the Institute for Legislative Analysis. They just want a small government. The sort of government that forces you to be pregnant. The sort of government that when you want to break up your marriage asks, yeah, why? Give me a good reason why you should be able to be divorced, because otherwise we're not gonna let you. Our government's gonna be really small, just small enough to force you to stay married to someone you don't wanna be married to. And contraceptives, I don't like it. So I don't think you should be allowed to have it. Small government stuff. Again, look, the hypocrisy is obvious. We're hardly the first person to point it out, but the drumbeat needs to never end. These people are absolute liars. They don't want a small government. They want a government that leaves the rich and corporations alone. And other than that, it's super vigorous. It's pounding Monster Energy drinks and it's hanging out in your bedroom. That's what it's doing. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.